Hey guys, welcome back. This is some video that I've had for a while, just haven't had a chance. I'm actually doing a brake job here, and this is something, what you were just seeing was the new brake rotor to put on. They always ship them with oil on them, so take a little brake clean. Just something to get the oil that they pack them in to keep them from rust. Here I'm putting the caliper mounting bolts back in, and always use Loctite on those. You don't ever want them to be out. That's just a bad scenario all the way around. Now, here again, like I said, unfortunately, I didn't get any video of the actual teardown on this. My camera, and I didn't realize it. I had it up on my head, and I didn't realize that it wasn't recording. So, switched the batteries, and then apparently I didn't get exactly where I wanted to go. You know, what do you call that? World problems? Anyway, I apologize for that, but like I was saying, you know, you can do this with basic, simple hand tools. I'm not using anything, I'm not using anything else here. Tightening up everything with ratchets, and, you know, here in a second, hammer and a wrench really lock those calipers. Always like to do that just to make sure that they don't back out on me. I actually did have that happen once. I thought the bolt had factory Loctite on it, and apparently it did enough, and it vibrated itself loose, and it cost me a wheel on my own truck. So the caliper got loose, and when I backed up and hit brakes, it swung out, hit the inside of the wheel, and fractured the wheel. So when you're getting ready to always lay all 4 pads out and make sure that they're all, or you may have 2 other style, and generally when that is there's a specific inner and outer pad, and if you didn't notice it when you took it apart, if you have one side apart and you leave one side of the vehicle together, you can always go around and look at the other side to, you know, once you examine, you can figure out which one. Not a big deal, but if this is your first time doing something like this, I always recommend doing one side at a time. That way you can always use it if you need to. The self mounts to the mounting bracket. There are 2 pins in there out as you apply and release the brakes, and as the brake pads wear down, they allow the in or out. Clean them if they need to be cleaned, especially if they're starting to get rust. And you want those that you don't bind up and tear the pads unevenly or except the car. Once I get there, he had that brake tab on him. I'm not exactly 100% sure what happened. I think it knocked up and grabbed it completely down. It almost cut the rotor down to the point where it had a very knife edge to it. It was almost in a very dangerous state when it got to the shop. So, as you can see right there in the center of the frame, there's a hook, and that is what the caliper is hanging from. You don't ever want to let that dangle from the brake lines. That can do damage to the brake lines. So now I'm just trying to get the pads fit into the mounting bracket. These in particular, for some reason, were a little bit tight. I had to clean some of the paint and burrs from the manufacturing process off of the end of the pad to get them to slide in and be able to move freely. Here I'm just putting some Loctite. The bolts that hold it in place, they're only, I think, 16th bolt on this vehicle, so or what is it, 8mm? So you can't put a whole lot of torque on these little bolts. So you do want to make sure they have some Loctite on them to help hold them in place. So here again, you know, not a very difficult job. Something that anybody with some basic tools and mechanical knowledge could do. So we'll be on the other side here in a second. We had going on over there. guys, so we're over on the other side, and in that shot right there you can see how thin that brake rotor is. This caliper locked up, it actually pushed the piston all the way out, and the piston cocked sideways and wedged the pad up against the rotor and just chewed it up. And you can see all the brake fluid that got stuck inside the here I'm actually taking the caliper mounting bracket bolts off, so you do get to see the disassembly on this side. The first thing you do is take your caliper mounting bracket out and get your caliper hanging up, or excuse me, you take your caliper mounting bolts out and get the caliper hung up. And normally at this point I would compress the piston, but this caliper was trashed, so I'm not even going to mess with it. I just hung it off to the side, and when I put the new caliper on, I will take the line off of this one and transfer it as quickly to keep from losing any more brake fluid than necessary. I'll have to bleed the brakes process, because since it never air in the line, just the caliper, the new caliper itself. There you can see how eaten up that rotor was. And I'm setting the camera up just so you guys would have a better view of what I was doing, and I could move a little bit quicker. But here I'm using the hammer to actually knock the caliper mounting bracket bolts loose, same way I order, and we'll take all that off, basically pull the caliper mounting bracket off, because take that off in order to brake rotor. And then once I get all that pulled apart, I will get the new rotor cleaned up, and basically assembly is just disassembly your caliper mounting bracket, your brake pads, the new caliper itself, and then I will be back here very shortly when I go to bleed the brakes on the new caliper. Alright guys, when you get a new caliper, you're going to have the caliper. Most times you're going to have a mounting bracket. There should be a bag in there which you can see set right off to the side. It is going to contain generally a new banjo bolt, 2 washers, and then I'm putting the brake caliper right now. Now you can see the little rubber boots right there on the, there's one right there on the top. That is where the slide pins are. When the calipers are new, generally they come greased, so you don't need to do now sometimes on some vehicles you can actually slide the brake pads into the caliper mounting bracket with the caliper still bolted to it. In this case it being cooperative, so it was easier just to take it off and mount it as 2 separate pieces. what you're going to see. Excuse me. Like I said before, I can't stress it enough. Do not forget to use Loctite. You can see that the threads on these do have some factory Loctite in there, but being that this car is approaching, or if not over 20 years old, I don't remember the year, but I'm tempted to say it's 97. You can't trust that factory Loctite anymore. It's just not worth the risk. And there you can actually see where the old caliper was hanging, how far that piston was pushed out. I mean, that thing was just destroyed. There was no, I mean, I guess you probably could have put a rebuild kit in it, but for the price of a new caliper, it's really not worth the time to try and rebuild it. And if it doesn't go together exactly right, then you're out the cost of the rebuild kit because you can't return it, and you've got to go buy a new caliper anyway. So most of the time I'll just replace the caliper, and even on my own stuff, it's just easier that way. And the little bit of difference in money is a bit in time. So as you can see right now, I've got the caliper on. I'm getting ready to bleed the brake system, and I went ahead and popped the hood ladder set up. Now I've already cracked the bleeder loose, and I'm just letting gravity do its thing. Basically, the gravity, as long as you have fluid in the reservoir, gravity will force the fluid down into the brake caliper. It works in most cases. If you're patient and you have some time, it works great. It'll force most of the air. On this particular vehicle, I didn't pressure bleed them at all. I didn't actually have somebody hold the brake and, crack the bleeder loose to bleed the brakes. But in some cases that is necessary, especially to get them to feel good. What I will show you here in a minute is a setup that I've made for these for different applications. A master cylinder cap, drilled a hole, I believe it was a 1/2-inch hole in it, and popped a valve stem into it. And if you very gently use shop air, or compressed air, you don't want to put much pressure in, but you can actually push the brake fluid through that way, and it saves a lot of time in the shop. Some vehicles doing a full system, we cut our time down from over an hour to less than 5 minutes. So it's something simple you can make. You just need a old cylinder cap. You can even go buy a new one for a couple bucks and make it out of brand new as well. So anyway, guys, I hope you find the video helpful. Please give me a thumbs up. Click the like button. Subscribe to the channel. I want to do some sort of a giveaway once I hit 100 subscribers. So I will have an announcement coming up about that here in the very near future. Possibly on Tuesday's tool review. We'll see how that goes. But that little shot of the anyway, guys, I hope you liked it. Again, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next.